Welcome to Stories of Hope. I'm Christine Hotchkiss. Each week, I bring you stories that will inspire you, educate you, and give you hope. I want to thank my studio sponsor, the Motivated Mind Group, your global creative agency based right here in downtown Chandler. We have a little twist on my Stories of Hope today. I am excited about this one because I was like, how can I share stories and have more stories? My guest today is Shareen Rivera. She is a ghostwriter. She founded Rising Above Publishing Services, but it didn't start out with her just saying, I'm gonna be a ghostwriter. She has a story of her own that was traumatic, and she turned it into power, and she helps other people do the same thing by her writings. Please help me welcome my guest today, Shareen Rivera. Hi there.
Hi. Thank
Welcome
you so much for asking me to come on today.
Yes, and we talked quite a bit, and I was like, how can I put this in here where it's going to be even more inspiring for other people that'll be like, that's me too, or oh, I want to know how to do that. But it wasn't as easy as I'm making it sound with having your own publishing company. You have a story of your own where you don't have any family. Both your parents were meth addicts, and you were raised by your grandparents, and that was pretty traumatizing too. And so I want you to start with, it's hard to start with when I know the story. You have your grandparents that took you in, but your grandfather invaded your space and your privacy. And that's where I think the trust was broken immediately. Am I correct?
Yes. At 5 years old, my grandfather raped me, and I was sexually abused by him. I don't know what age it ended. And in fact, I had forgotten about it my entire first half of my life. I always had a memory that lingered in the back of my mind, but every time it was this, I would push it away, and I would tell myself that my sister's dad did it, not my grandpa. And I said to myself that I believed it. And the 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 confusing part, not just my grandfather doing that to me, was it's one thing when you're being abused by a mother, father, or guardians that are mean to you and hit you and treat you awful, and then you're being sexually abused. That's one thing, and it's horrible. But my grandparents were very loving towards me and my sister, and my grandpa was a very loving husband to my grandmother, and he was very loving towards me. So, coupled with being abused by him sexually, I had connected love, right, with this kind of toxic behavior. And that followed throughout my adult life.
And I've always said this, that we only know what we know until something else has been presented to us.
Yes.
Right? That's the normal as far as we know it, until either something in life changes us, or we meet someone that shows us that that's not the right thing, or teaches us how to be a better version of ourselves, right?
Right.
And as kids, and even as an adult, stability and trust, in my opinion, are the foundation to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in relationships.
It's what feeds peace, and you have nothing unless you have peace.
Absolutely. So there was more to it than that. I mean, that was 5 years old. That, and you don't recall how long it went on. We don't need to go there either, because that's not who you are now, and that's not a part of your life now, because I also know you're a parent of two, and you're taking care of those two on your own. But you had it start out with not having that stability with your parents. Another thing, as kids, we look to the adults to be the protectors, and your parents weren't able to protect you either.
No. My mom was an alcoholic growing up, and that is why my grandparents got custody of me and my sister. And then at 16, she got addicted to meth, and she became homeless. And so she was homeless just up until 2 years ago. And I had, a very little relationship with my mom just because she wasn't in her right mind. And my father left my life when I was 10, and I connected with him again when I was 30. And he was a addict, and he was also homeless. So they were absent in my life.
So I'm excited to actually talk about what you do now versus being dwelling on what is no longer, which it's very heavy. And I don't want anyone to think that we're going to talk about stuff that is not productive. We want to talk about what is productive. Where was your turning point in your life that you decided that you were going to take ownership of your life and you're going to do something more for you?
It was in 2016, and um, we all want better. I wanted better. I left my 10-year marriage. That was an abusive marriage, and I left with my babies. My daughter was 9 months, my son was 2. And I thought because I had managed to get out of that marriage on my own and get my own apartment, and I thought that was it. Like, I can give my kids better now. But it was just the beginning. And I realized very fast that it wasn't everybody else that was the problem, but it was me, because I had no peace and I couldn't stop crying, and I started drinking a lot, and I started seeing my mother in me. And and it wasn't until I got another job that was quite a commute. It was 3.5 hours every day from where I lived. And it was a blessing because it was God getting me to sit still. And I got tired of listening to the radio one day, and I opened up my YouTube, and the first video was Les Brown. And I got addicted to Les Brown, and then I started listening to Wayne Dyer, and then all these motivational speakers. And it is what really started planting seeds of hope in my mind, and realizing that I can do something with all of this sadness that I have inside of me, that it doesn't have to define me anymore, and that there is a way out of this. And, God does something very powerful in our lives when we become open. He starts showing us people that can give us a message that we need. When I didn't have parents and I didn't have mentors, but I was at a point in my life where I wanted change. And so I believe that's why I found those videos, and I started connecting with people on social media that were leaders in the community and that were in women empowerment. And I started creating my own inspiration from all of these different stories that I heard. And, we all want to escape the heaviness that we have in our life and the sadness.
Yeah.
But I think that it's actually all this heaviness that's truly a gift, because how do you have wisdom if you don't go through anything? And it's about creating something with the heaviness that we have in our life. What can you create with it, and who can you help with it? And that's how we use all of the pain and suffering that we've gone through to pave the way for something new for us.
Now, there are some people who say, this is just the way I am. This is the way I'm going to stay. And then there's people like yourself and myself and a lot of other people out there that say, I don't like this. Like you said, there's got to be more to what's going on in my life, and it's not the same thing every day or the same feeling that we have that says, I'm not happy. And how did you stumble upon becoming a ghostwriter? That intrigues me.
It's funny. I didn't even know what a ghostwriter was. I decided in 2017 to put together my own book, because during my marriage, I wrote poetry, and my poetry told my story in its own way. And I decided to put together a book of poetry telling my story. And it took me an entire year to put this book together. And it was a very healing process for me, because it was the first time that I was speaking my truth. And I put it out. And I had zero intentions of making money. My only intention was to connect with other women that had gone through the same thing. And so every day I would spend my time looking for the perfect picture to post a poem on Instagram. And I started gaining a following from doing this just for a few months. And one of my friends, she said, she called me one day after work and she's like, hey, I know this entrepreneur in Silicon Valley, and he's looking for a ghostwriter. And he saw some of your social media posts, and he knows you're an author, and he wants to meet with you like in an hour
Oh
if
my
you're
gosh.
interested. And I was on my way home commuting, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is a ghostwriter? And she's like, a
Right?
ghostwriter is somebody who writes somebody's book, and he can meet you right now in downtown. I'm like, oh my gosh, I knew it was just an opportunity, right? And so I turned around and I went to go meet him. And on the way to meet him, I was listening to YouTube videos on what ghostwriting is, and I obtained my first contract. But it was within in that writing that book that I learned what my gift was. I had always been an empath, and I used to think it was a weakness because I could feel everyone's emotions, and I didn't know what to do with any of this. I didn't Sometimes I didn't know if it was my emotions that I was feeling or the other person's. But when I was ghostwriting, I could tap into what my clients' emotions are when they're sharing their story, and I can convey it in a way that they were not able to. And it was the first time that I was really validated for being good at something. And it was the first time I was able to use my gifts in a very powerful and meaningful way.
And
So
in a
since then,
way, go ahead, sorry.
that's okay. I was just going to say, and since then, I've written 32 books,
Wow.
and it's been quite the journey.
And in a way, you're doing what I'm doing, stories of hope, but you're doing the stories directly with the person in print. I'm doing it in audio or I'm doing it visually. And I think, no, I know people connect with books, music, movies, right? And then storytelling, however someone else may find it outside of those three things I said. Because we're always wanting to know that someone can either relate or validate how we're feeling or inspire us. And I think you mentioned that when you had turned on your YouTube to Les Brown, which I had the privilege of meeting him once several years ago, not really understanding who he was at the time, but now I definitely know who he is because of the growth I've been in. So you probably have just as many exciting and intriguing stories that people ask you to write because they don't think that they have the ability to put their feelings, like you said, being an empath, into words that says, this is my story, this is who I am, and I want the world to know. As I have had plenty of my guests on the show that have made me stay grounded as well. What kind of gratification do you get, in a positive way, of course, by doing this? Because there's going to be a lot more coming, just like I have a lot more coming where I'm at.
Well, I have always said that um, God has aligned me with clients that come with a message. And I believe it has been through my ghostwriting that I have been able to rise and heal because everybody has given me a message. I feel like because I didn't have, again, parents or anyone to like mentor me, um, I've been aligned with certain people that have stories with advice and messages that I could apply to my own life. And it is only through ghostwriting with these people and really learning who they are at their core and how they operate in life that I've been able to take the same principles and apply it in my own life so that I could show up differently with my children and for myself.
I do the exact same thing. How could you not, right? You're having to connect with someone you don't know and have an understanding of why they're coming to you, and you are changed because now you're seeing something outside of your own life.
Yes, a different perspective.
Can you give some examples of some of the memoirs or some of the books that you have written just to pique our interest?
So, per my ghostwriting contract, I'm not supposed to state that I'm the ghostwriter, but a
Okay.
few of the books that I have co-authored and ghostwritten that I'm allowed to say is My House to Paint with Marshall Jones, Smoke and Mirrors with Mauricio Mejia, and that's the first book that I actually ghost wrote. And if you just search me on Amazon, I'm part of a lot of different books.
So, I know you can't say who. Is there any particular situation that has really impacted you when you had to write their memoirs or their books that you had a hard time
Definitely.
with? Yeah.
So a young lady reached out to me in 2019, and it was I had just quit my full-time job to work for myself. And she wanted me to help her write her memoir. And she had been sexually abused by her father from the age of 5 to 10.
Mm.
Her aunt walked in one day witnessing what was taking place, called the police, and her dad was put in prison. So, as you can imagine, it impacted every area of her life. And she felt guilty for many years that her dad was away in prison and just all these different things, right? But I couldn't even sit through a session with her without feeling super anxious and like I was going to get an anxiety attack.
Because you
And
could
it was,
relate to it.
but I had not remembered all of the things that had happened to me. I only had that one memory, but I kept putting it away. But it was after the second meeting with her that I sat with myself and I realized that I can't meet my clients as deep as I need to until I've met myself that deep. And so it forced me to really face my truth. And at that time, I did have a lot of mentors and people that did healing work and stuff. And so I had people to help me deal with these memories that were starting to surface. And I believe they were starting to surface because I was at a place in my life where I had tools to deal with it, you know. But it was a very difficult time in my life because I was taking care of my grandma at the time while I was trying to deal with these new memories, and self-employed, writing other people's books, taking care of my kids. And so it was very overwhelming, but helping her write that book helped me understand that I'm not alone and why it is so powerful that we speak our truth. A lot of us believe that, who's going to want to listen to our story, or what can my story really do? But if you try to get out of that mentality and just step away and imagine 100 years from now when you're gone and your book being sold at a used bookstore or just happened to be in somebody's house and somebody picking it up and it really impacting their life. That's the power a book has, a story has. And if that young lady never gained the courage to reach out and want to share her story, I don't know I would be where I'm at today. I don't know if I would have been able to be pushed to face my own truth. So that's just one, but there's many.
I bet. And so I am curious. I know as a woman, we are full of words, we are full of emotions and expressions. How many men come to you and ask you to write their books?
Well, actually, most of my clientele are men right now. I've worked with many men, and it's actually through working with men that I feel like it's helped me heal the perspective of men that I had in my mind. I've had a lot of issues, as you can imagine, with how I think men are, especially after leaving my marriage and being abused and getting in one toxic relationship after another, and just thinking, oh, all men are like that,
Mm-hmm.
and that being my truth. I really had to unplug from that matrix and that belief system and open myself up to the possibility that perhaps there are other men out there that are not like that. And it was kind of like the same way I had to unplug from the matrix of being a victim and thinking this is how the world is, to understanding that I have the power to change what my reality is. I had to open myself in that way. And I had to think about what kind of man I want to raise my son to be. And if it's possible to raise my son to be different than the men that I knew, then it is possible, there is a possibility that there are other men like that.
Well, and
And
it's easy for us to point blame at someone else when we're expecting them to react differently or be our security, our safety. But in all reality, it really, like you've said, it comes from within the truths of who we are. We know that society with men is they don't talk about their feelings. I don't know why. I have a son too. I want to make sure, because I have my own stuff, that I didn't want my son to feel like he could never express how he felt, truly felt, and that he could be proud of who he is and make decisions based on how he felt, not what he thought society made him to be or thought he should be, or how his mama thinks he should be. And I think I did okay. But our truths are always in our face, and it's just a matter of when do we face them so that we can have a healthier life. And that includes attracting the people that we want in our lives, that we keep saying, I don't want to keep doing this, right? Or I don't want to be this person anymore.
yeah, and also, like Maya Angelou said, is just accepting people for who they show us that they are. You know, that was really powerful for me, because as I reflected back on all the different relationships that I had with men, at some point they each showed me who they were, but I chose to look away and look at who I wanted them to be, the potential, that dream image of them, right? And only focus on their good and not see what they were showing me, not listen to what they were telling me. And so, you know, it's fair to say that you cannot expect an orange to give you apple juice. And the same thing, it is not, I can't expect a person to show me love and compassion and understanding when they don't even have that to give to themselves. And the
And that's where,
same, at the same point, my father. I couldn't expect my father to show up and be a father to me and be there for me the way that I needed him to be as a young girl, when he had his own traumas that he hadn't even dealt with, right?
absolutely.
And just like really understanding that most people do the best that they know how to do, right? And most people don't know how to do better.
No, I had said
So
something the other day. Like Maya Angelou, I think, is the one that says, when someone shows you who they are the first time, believe them. But I actually have a twist on that because of things that have happened. The other statement would be, oh, people don't change. And I thought, yeah, they do. I posted this the other day, and I was really surprised how many people were accepting and receptive to it. And it was, people don't change, but I disagree, because you can change by your circumstances. You are changed by the people that you meet, and you can change by the choices you make.
change is hard.
It is.
Change is really, really hard, and it
It
comes with sacrifice.
It
You
does.
have to, there's a price for everything. And the price for change is being willing to let go of our old behaviors, let go of toxic people, even family, let go of everything that was part of our normal. And a lot of people are willing to do that. And I think that's why a lot of people say most people don't change. But I believe that a lot of people don't change on their own until they're forced to change. But I think one way or another, if you don't change on your own, the universe will still push you to change.
Oh, constantly going to push you to change. Before I ask my final question, is there anything that you want to add to what you do as your publication? I know that there's probably more to it than I've asked, because I don't know anything about that. I usually do my own stuff.
Yeah. So, like you said, I'm a ghostwriter. My expertise are memoirs and autobiographies, and I have my own publishing company, Rising Above Publishing Services, and we help people that have already written their books, or if they go through me to write their books, we help them self-publish. We do all the back-end work. We have gotten into distribution into Barnes and Nobles and airport bookstores, and we get the book print ready and edited. And you can learn more on my website, risingabovepublishing.com or ShareenRivera.com.
Perfect. I was just going to ask it, but you already shared with me. Thank you. So now we just did almost 30 minutes on this show, and so a lot of questions were exchanged and asked. But if I had only one question to ask to know about someone, or at least think that I know about someone, it would be this question. What message would you like to leave everyone based on your journey of your life?
That it is possible to be free from all the sadness that you've experienced. It is possible to be free from a heavy heart. It is possible to not think about the horrible things that you've been through. It's possible not to repeat those horrible things. And it all starts with our willingness to believe it and to learn different ways and methods on how to apply practices and rituals in our life that will help free us and create something beautiful with the pain that we've been through to help the world.
I like that. Thank you. I like that a lot, actually, and I'm sure you go through a lot of different emotions, and you get some joy out of the type of work that you do that will also keep you grounded too.
Definitely.
Yeah, I love what I do. Some days I'm not sure how the interview is going to go, and then when I walk away, I go, I needed that and didn't even realize it. So
yeah, there's a lot of power in healing and positive conversations.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Thank you for being my guest today and sharing the little bit that you could as far as any examples of the memoirs that you have written. I'm sure if anyone's interested, they can reach out to you as you've given the information. And perhaps someone who didn't think that they had a story or had a way to put their story into words, you could help them.
Definitely. Thank you for having me.
I want to thank my studio sponsor, the Motivated Mind Group, your global creative agency based right here in downtown Chandler. I also want to thank you for watching. Please like, share, and wait to see the next Stories of Hope. If you'd like to be a guest and you want to share your story that would help someone else along their journey, please email me to the address of stories@christinehotchkiss.com. And if you'd like to be a sponsor, you may also email me to the address of stories@christinehotchkiss.com. Until next time, everyone, I wish you well, and you take care.